Started a little late, but I promise you, just like that teacher, when she teach, I promise you can get everything you're supposed to get here today. We will meet our objectives, okay? All right. So first of all, do we have Pearson Middle School yet? Yeah, all right, Pearson. Okay, let's see what Stockbridge Middle School can do. All right. And what about, and I hope I pronounced it right, Simonton Elementary School? They're not here yet? Well, somebody, what high school I didn't announce. Somebody's here because there was a lot more people. Let's try this again. Do we have Stockbridge Middle School in the house? That's all we have, okay. Do we have Pearson Middle School in the house? All right, then, that's a little bit more. Good morning, my name is Donna Bullock, and I am the program manager for Students with King. Students with King was designed by the daughter of Dr. King, and she wanted to have an opportunity for students to come and see the King Center in a different light and have a true experience, and where you can get the opportunity to ask the questions you want to ask that you may not find in the textbooks or your teacher may not tell you. But this is your day. The whole thing is about you. This can be a conversation today. That means a conversation requires two or more people, right? So therefore, when all of us have this conversation, we're going to need you. So I ask for your participation. Teachers, a reminder, if you have already selected your team in case your school is called, and I can tell you since we have so few schools, all of you are going to be called. So teacher, have your individuals that participate in elementary school should have 2 students on this side, and middle school should have 2 students on this side for to represent them. Elementary, you can bring 3 since you're much younger to help get your question answered correctly. So now, without further ado, because we have to make us some time, I'd like to introduce to you a very special person. At this time, we're going to have a presentation for you.
Hey, greetings, everybody. I'm Bernice A. King. I'm the CEO of the King Center, and I'm the youngest child of Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King. And I just want to take this time to welcome you to the King Center. We're glad you're here. And we want to make sure that you have a very powerful, exciting, fun, energizing, and engaging experience. And so we've got some dynamic people here today that's going to talk to you, and you're going to learn more about Dr. King beyond what you've seen in a textbook. And we're just excited because you're the generation that's going to change the state of our world, and we're depending on you. And we want to make important deposits in your life today. And so I want to welcome all of the students. I want to welcome all of the educators to the King Center.
All right, let's give our CEO a round of applause for taking our time to say welcome. Well, welcome once again to the King Center. All right, the next thing is everybody have siblings, right? And you have a lot of sibling rivalries. You don't fight because in the King Center we don't believe in fighting. No, you shouldn't be fighting at all. But you have some non-violent conversations, don't you? I know you do. We are looking forward to that. So Dr. King has siblings too. Do anybody out there know how many siblings that she had? Do you know? Okay, the young man in the red, she has 2. Okay, 2. Okay, somebody else want to try? How many siblings she has? Okay, I see a hand. The young man in the black shirt, young lady. Excuse me. Behind you, the young man that dropped his hand. So the lady behind you. 3, right? She had 3 siblings. Somebody give this to the young lady. Thank you. She has 3 siblings. All right, then. So that's absolutely correct. And we want to introduce this to you also. So we're going to introduce the siblings to you. And after that, we'll get started with today's program.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Mrs. Coretta Scott King had 4 children. First came Yolanda Denise King. Her nickname was Yoki. So cool. When she was a little girl, she wanted to be an actress. She loved acting and pursued a career in acting. Yoki worked very hard on being the best actress she could be. Yoki had starring roles in TV shows and movies. Then came Martin Luther King III. His nickname is Marty, and he loved sports and music when he was a young boy. Martin grew up to be a politician and motivational speaker. Martin has spoken to thousands of people all over the world. After Martin is Dexter Scott King. Dexter was named after Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, where Dr. King was the pastor. Dexter loved playing with his brother and sisters when he was a young boy. Dexter grew up to be a businessman and chairman of the board of the King Center. And last but not least is Bernice Albertine King. Her nickname was Bunny, and she loved skating and playing with her brothers and sister. She also loved playing sports. Bernice is a minister, lawyer, and the CEO of the King Center.
All right. Now, just like in the classroom, at a certain point, lecturing can get kind of boring, right? Yeah. So I don't want to become boring to you. So I'm going to turn you over to a friend of mine from the King Center. He's going to talk to a little bit about that. And then after that, he's going to turn into our game host. So at this time, you all welcome Mr. Ian Moore.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Yes, my name is Ian Moore. I'm the director of the Beloved Community Leadership Academy. We work with young people ages 13 to 18 who are interested in nonviolence. If you're interested in nonviolence, maybe you raise your hand. Ooh, okay, I hope everybody's interested in nonviolence. Okay. Getting a little feedback. Okay. We also do about technology and innovation. Raise your hand if you like gamifications, you like video games, you like mobile applications, you like websites. All right. And then the last one is raise your hand if you want to be an entrepreneur. We do entrepreneurship. So if you raise your hand for all three, I need you to go to the King Center and look up the King Center's website and look up the Beloved Community Leadership Academy. Just look it up. And if you're interested, go ahead and click that apply button and fill out that application. I would love to have you in our program. And with that being said, who's ready to play a game? Are we ready to play a game? All right. Can we do a share? It's time for Think, Pair, and Share. All right, let's do it. So I don't know who's gonna go first. Let me just think for a second. Is Stockbridge ready? Oh, I don't really know. Is Pearson ready? I think I might have to start off with Pearson. Let's give it one more try. Is Pearson ready? Is Stockbridge ready? All right. Well, let me start off with two people. You should know who you are already, teachers, if you selected two people. I'm looking for two people from Pearson Middle School, if they could come up to the stage. Let's give them a round of applause. Give them a round. You guys can come around right here. All right, so I hope you did some reading beforehand. You had an assignment to kind of read some articles, to maybe look at the 6 steps, 6 principles. Hopefully we're ready to go. But what we're going to do is we're going to have a question that's going to appear on the screen. And we want you all to talk about it. And then when you're ready, to be able to share your answer. Is that okay? All right, it's time for Think, Pair, Share. Can we have the question, please? Here we go. Who showed Dr. King and his siblings how to speak out against hatred and bigotry and stand up for what's right? Was it his dad? Was it his uncle? His neighbor? Or godparents? Take a moment.
Okay, looking at the literature, looking at the literature. Okay, looking at the readings. All right. I think we're ready. We're going to count down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies first.
His dad.
Okay. Hey, can we share the correct answer? If we can share the correct answer, I believe it is. Is that? Yeah. All right, we'll give him a round of applause. Yeah. And we have some prizes for him. Absolutely, we have some prizes for him. Are we good with the prizes, Tyreek? Yeah. We'll give him some prizes. Okay, great. And we'll give you a card and we'll give you your prizes at the end, all right? Well, thank you. Can we give him a round of applause from Pearson? All right. Great job. They took some time. They were reading the article. It's great. We love it. So now, I think Stockbridge, you might have a little bit of advantage because you know what's about to happen, right? Can I get my 2 students from Stockbridge Middle School up to the stage? Come on, can we give them a round of applause? We need 2 people. Anybody? All right, here we go. Yeah. It's all right. We're good. I know you all do a fantastic job. All right, we ready? I know we're ready. Here we go. So here goes the second question and think, pair, share. We can display the question, please. How many children did Dr. and Mrs. King have? I feel like Donald, you just. Oh, we need to rule the middle school question. This is elementary school. I didn't know we had a difference between elementary and middle. There's more questions? We got another question. Here we go. What is nonviolent resistance? Is it A, rioting against oppressive organizations? Is it B, being active and nonviolently struggling against violence? Is it C, not being physically violent but saying hateful things? Or is it D, being a pacifist? Go ahead and converse around yourselves. Take your time. Yeah, that's it. That's that energy. Send them positive vibes. Here we go. We're going to start our countdown in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And they went with answer number B, letter B. And I believe B is absolutely correct. Can we give them a round of applause? Yeah, thank you. You'll go out to the side. They'll give you a card, and we'll make sure you get your prize at the end. I don't know about you, but I think, it might be time that we see if our teachers been reading the material, right? Because I was a former teacher, and sometimes, right, you give out assignments and, you just give them out. But did the teachers actually do the assignment too? Stockbridge or Pearson, let me ask, do we have 2? Just 1? Okay. We can get Pearson, because Pearson's been on 5 today. Pearson, is there any teacher we would like to bring up to the stage? All right, come on. Oh, I get to ask. Wow, I like this. They gave me free range to kind of ask any question. Man, you're so. No, I would never do that to you. All right, here we go. What year was the Montgomery bus boycott? What year did it say? Hey, can you say the answer?
1955.
There you go. Give a round of applause. Round of applause. On the spot. On the spot. I love it. Hey. Let's know. Thank you. I love it. I appreciate it. We're going to give you a prize as well. We'll get you a favor when you come on down. Thank you. Let's give it a round of applause. Round of applause. Round of applause to Stockbridge Middle School. Can we give a big round of applause to Stockbridge? And we'll give a big round of applause for Pearson as well. Thank you. Yeah, and now we got to know what the prizes are. Can we hear about what the prizes are, please? Might be a little bit more than candy.
Are you up there, Voice? Voice. Your mic working? All right, I'll do it from down here.
Okay.
All right. Normally, Voice would announce this, but we have our own version of the prize show. So today, for all those who participated, thank you. But one thing we like to reward participation for those people in middle school who participated. You will receive a bookmarker.
Donald.
Oh, the Voice is back. You can do it now. Thank you.
Okay, for our dynamic student contestants, they're going to receive a King Center bookmarker because they're always reading, never on their phones and never on PlayStation. And what else do we have here? We've got a dynamic King Center themed ink pen. And I think are these for the teachers or the students? Okay. So we've got a King Center ink pen to work on our homework with. And what else do we have there? Is that a wristband? A King Center themed wristband to keep the King Center philosophy always at the top of mind. And for our awesome teacher who was put on the spot, she's going to receive a King Center themed coffee mug so she can stay up late at night and put A's and B's on all our students' papers. And she's going to receive the Dr. King Montgomery Story comic book teacher set. And last but not least, a new car. Oh, I'm sorry, that's another show.
Let's give another round of applause for our dynamic game host, Mr. Ian Moore. John, we're done. I know you can do it. All right, and let's give a round of applause for Miss Della for showing the prizes and our Voice for finally getting his voice together. Well, things happen, but we just thank the Voice for finally getting it together. All right. And right now we're going to leave this side because we're going to go to a more interesting side what you come here for. You have an opportunity to speak to those who walked in the civil rights or been here with Mrs. King when she was running the King Center prior to leaving. And so therefore you have an opportunity to ask the questions. Questions will be asked to this mic over here so we can hear you. We are also streaming this right now. So teachers, if you don't sign up for this program on the flyer that I gave you, you can see the next date that we'll have a program. And if you can't come, you can actually watch it in your classroom. So there's teachers right now watching us right now. So you're going all over the world. So that's why we had to have you to sign your waiver. So not just here, we got people in Korea, in England, in Canada. Students all over the world are being a part of this event. We can only hold 250 at one time, but now we can get thousands. So let's give a round of applause to our audience that's watching with us also. And at this time, I'd like to introduce our moderator for the day. She will moderate the panel. This young lady I met over 7 years ago when I came here, and she is a TV anchor, as well as she's the spokesperson for the Stockbridge County, and her name is Shannon Thornton, and she'll tell you a little bit more about it. Will you welcome Shannon Thornton, especially you guys from Stockbridge? She's right at your home. She's at the city office. Shane, oh, there you are.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bullock. Let's give a round of applause for everyone being here today. Super excited to be here. As he said, I am Shayna Thornton, and I have a background in journalism and public relations. My current job is the public information officer for the great city of Stockbridge. Is Stockbridge here today? Stockbridge Middle. Hello, family. So very happy to be with the Stockbridge family and also being here in Atlanta Metropolitan. I welcome all the schools. I know we have Stockbridge Middle. Pearson Middle School is here as well. Thank you for being here. And I don't think Samaton Elementary School is here yet, but they'll join us shortly. As he said, today is a wonderful day. And if you don't know, you should know that you're here with the students with King Civil Rights Interactive Assembly, and you'll have a guided tour immediately following this. So did you enjoy the presentation and the game so far? Yeah, that was cool. So now we have the opportunity to really hear from some individuals that are advocates and those that knew the King family up close and personal. And this is your segment of the meeting. It really is, because you have the opportunity to come down and ask questions. So any question you want to ask of the individuals that will be with us is welcomed. We do have a family member of the King, a family that's with us. She is the granddaughter of actually the brother of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. himself. We also have two individuals that worked up close and personal with the dynamic Coretta Scott King. So you're in a special place today. So no better time to be here. And let's get to know these individuals up close and personal. At this time, I'll ask that Celeste Beal join us on stage. Celeste, let's give a round of applause for Celeste. And as she makes her way up, thank you, Celeste. Celeste Beal is the granddaughter of A.D. and Naomi King. She is a graduate of Liberty School of Law and shares the same passion as her grandfather for working with and talking to young people. So Celeste, this is your group today, right? I love it. So thank you for being with us. And again, she is the granddaughter of Dr. King's brother, Mr. A.D. Right next up, we're going to have with us Dr. Lily Baxter. Dr. Baxter, will you join us on stage now? In 1979, none of you were born, at least the students weren't, but it was a very important year because Dr. Baxter joined Coretta Scott King as director of the King Center's nonviolence training and education program, and she held that capacity until 1992. So she worked closely with Miss Coretta Scott King, and she's going to share her experience with us. So thank you, Dr. Baxter, for being with us. So excited. And last, but certainly not least, we have with us the one and only Mrs. Martha Potter Hall. And if you join us right now, Miss Hall, thank you. Let's give a round of applause. Miss Hall started to work for Mrs. King July 19th, 1965. So she and her husband have close ties to the King's family and legacy. Her husband, Van, was the assistant director for public relations for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And so for many years, Miss Hall actually worked for the Mrs. Coretta Scott King and also the King Center. So she's going to share her experience and time with us. So let's give a round of applause to all of our panel today. So students, ladies and gentlemen, get your questions ready because this is going to be one dynamic conversation, okay? Is it on? Testing? There we go. I will kick off the questions for today. And again, this is your interactive meeting, okay? So we want you, if you want to just stand up, we have Tyreek Wynn right here. Here's the microphone. So at any point, you can stand up and ask your question. And that goes for the staff with us as well. My first question is for you, Celeste. Of course, again, the granddaughter of A.D. King, who was the brother of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. What would you like to share with our students here with us today about your grandparents and how they shaped you as the individual and the advocate that you are?
Well, I'd like to share that my family is one where love is a very important thing. And my grandmother used to come and do these sessions as well. And so one thing that she would always do is tell the students to look to your left and to your right smile, and just tell the person next to you that you love them. So if y'all could do that, and I know it might be weird, but it will change. I see the smiles. I see the smiles. I see the smiles. That might be the only love that somebody gets today, right? Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Attention back up here. But no, even though you're laughing, even though you're joking, love has the power to change the world. And by doing that, and it doesn't have to be romantic, it can be the agape love that, Dr. King believed in and he shared with the world. So thank you all for doing that. And it's something that was entrenched in my family, something that we share, the compassion that we have for all of humanity. And it really does make a difference.
Thank you so much. And I think that is certainly the King legacy about love and including everyone, being inclusive. So thank you. Dr. Lily Baxter, of course, you were hired in 1979 by Coretta Scott King in a very important capacity. If one of the students today asked you to describe Mrs. King, what would you tell them about her?
Well, I would be, am I on?
Push the button.
So Mrs. Coretta Scott King, first of all, she was a very gracious person. If she sat up here, she would sit with a certain elegance, with a certain grace. She was a very warm person. So she would be very interested in who you were, who each one of you was. When I worked with Mrs. King here at the King Center, I worked in the building called the Administration Building that faces Auburn Avenue, and on the other side is the reflecting pool. And I would walk with her from the Administration Building to the auditorium because she was going to speak, maybe to a group like you. And along the way, people would stop her and she would talk to every single person. And she would ask them about their families and the children. She cared about each human being, not just like the big, glob of people, but each single person and the value of each single human being, and that each person can contribute to this world and make it a better place. So that's a little bit about Mrs. King.
Thank you so much. It gives us more insight on who she is and how it impacts the work that the entire family did. And now, Mrs. Hall, thank you for joining us. Tell us more about your functions of the job you had when you worked with Mrs. King and how it assisted her in accomplishing her overall job of educating people about her husband's advocacy and legacy.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My husband first went to work for SCLC. This was during the height of the Selma March. He was coming home from work one day and just on impulse got off the expressway and went in the SCLC office and said, "Is there anything I can do to help?" And they had him open mail. Van grew up in Buckhead. Some of you know Buckhead here. I grew up on a farm in Doraville. So when I went in to interview her, the first thing that struck me that I noticed was how gorgeous she is. Really beautiful. And I am 3 years older than my husband, and she was 3 years older than Dr. King. And she was 10 years older than me. And the whole time I worked for her 1 year from 65 to 66, and then came back after he was killed and worked for another year, 68 to 69. And she used to tell me, "You can call me Coretta. You can call me Coretta." And I said, "Miss King, my mother would never forgive me if I called you by your first name." So I always called her Miss King. I used to do, and I was the first person that came to work in the house to help her, purely to help her. And I did anything that she needed. I picked up the laundry. I would deliver things to the SCLC office. Oh, and their house is at 234 Sunset Avenue in Vine City. And if you've never been there, you really should go. It is just a lovely, lovely, small, unpretentious house. There's nothing grand. But I would, like I said, I'd go to the grocery store. I'd pick up things at SCLC. Sometimes I picked up the kids at school, and my children would play with her children. My oldest, my daughter, is 6 months younger than Yolanda, and Bo is 17 months younger than that. So they were about the same age. So they all played together, and sometimes with some of the other children in the family. I would be happy to answer any questions or anything. If anybody's got any insights or curiosity about how their life was like yours. It was very similar to ours, and I had a lot of fun working here. One thing, I'll tell you one little episode that'll sort of maybe get things started. I came in one morning to work, and their house had it's what we used to call a shotgun house. There's a hall that goes right down the middle, and all the rooms are off to either side. So I came in, and I would work in Dr. King's office, which was at the end of the hall on the right, and their bedroom was on the left. And that was the first time I ever saw a king-size bed, by the way. Anyway, so I came in, walked back, and Dr. King had the door open to the bedroom, and he was standing there with a pillow in his hand. And he said, "Good morning, Martha." And I said, "Good morning, Dr. King." And he turned around, looked that way, and threw the pillow at the bed at Ms. King. So they were very playful with each other a lot of times when there was no one around.
Thank you. Thank you for that personalized insight. Such legendary people, and thank you, Ms. Hall, for being with us to remind us that they were humans as well, and of course had a husband and wife and love for one another. So very important for us to remember that. I'll remind everyone, and I know our elementary school just came in. Thank you, boys and girls and staff. Hello. Let's give a round of applause for our Somerton Elementary School for being with us. Thank you. Glad to have you. You're here right on time. Just a friendly reminder to all students and staff, we want your questions or comments. This panel is an amazing panel that includes those who worked up close and personal and those that are related by blood to the King family. So if you have any questions, please come over here to my left and you can stand up, and we're going to you can see Tyreek Wynn right there. We're going to get your questions on. So questions or comments or anything you want to note related, of course, to the King family and the legacy. And we thank each of you for being here today at the King Center. You know, Celeste, I have another question for you. And again, please do not be afraid to ask your questions or express your concerns. Celeste, you talked about love, which was so important to Coretta and Dr. King, but also to your parents, Miss Naomi and AD, your grandparents, Miss Naomi and AD King. Love is so important, but if we're going to be very frank about the civil rights movement, unfortunately, there was a lot of violence that people exerted or showed those individuals towards those individuals that wanted to have the same rights of equality. Did your grandmother or your parents ever express the concern when your grandparents actually had their home bombed? Because that is the dark side, of course, to everything that happened years ago.
Yes. They were living in Birmingham during the time where a lot of people in the civil rights movement called it Bombingham. I don't know if you're familiar, but there was a church that was bombed where little girls actually lost their life. My mother was living there at the time and went to school with a little girl that lost her life. And so there was a lot of fear for the young people during that time. And when my grandparents' home was bombed, they were in the house. My grandmother was in the front room setting up. It was like a Saturday because she was setting up for Sunday. And my grandfather comes in and he says that something is wrong. It's too quiet. He grabs her and they run to the back of the house. Right after that happened, a bomb went off, and it was so loud and so violent that it blew out the windows at the beginning, like at the entrance of the house. And they all run and exit from the back. When they get to the street, there's a crowd forming. there are people who want to go out and start rioting and just being disruptive. My grandmother tells me that my grandfather says, no, we can't do that. Everybody just go home. We're not going to start any problems or anything, because that would have disrupted the whole movement. And the principles of nonviolence, one of them is choosing love instead of hate. And if they would have responded with hate, it would have continued to cycle. But because they stood firm, responded in love, it was able to diffuse the situation and the whole narrative changed. So even if you're going against people who are attacking you, if you respond in love, and that's not saying you ignore it, but you focus on the issue, not the people who are doing wrong, that is how you're able to affect change.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that, and such so many lessons we can learn from the past, the dark side and the bright side of our past. Right now, we have some questions lined up. Tariq, young man, take it away.
Okay. When did Miss Coretta Scott King know that she wanted to make the Dr. Martin Luther King Day a national holiday?
I'll ask Dr. Baxter if you could contribute to that.
Actually, almost the day after Dr. King was assassinated. She knew of his importance, and she valued his teachings on love, on nonviolence. So she immediately started working with leaders through the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, throughout the country, to start a petition campaign to make Dr. King's birthday a national holiday. And you know his birthday is January 15th. He was born in 1927. So imagine, from 1968 to 1983, she would go to Washington, D.C., talk to elected officials. She traveled the country to teach about nonviolence, and she'd always talk about making his birthday a national holiday. And in 1983, President Ronald Reagan made it a federal law. It was now a law that the third Monday in January would from then on be a national holiday. And imagine, you all have to learn about him because he has a national holiday in his honor. Thousands of schools and streets and buildings and community centers have been named after Dr. King. And that whole push to make his birthday a national holiday has lifted him to be a national and international leader. So that's a great question, but it took from 1968 to 1983, and it finally became a real holiday in 1984 when it was first celebrated. So how many years? From 68 to 1984, that's 16 years? You all math majors. I was good in English.
Thank you so much, Dr. Baxter, for adding that highlight. Next question.
Okay. Well, my name is Amina Sharwar. I am from Pearson Middle School and I'm in 7th grade. My question is that if Dr. King was alive today, what do you think he would say about today's society?
Okay. What would Dr. King say about today's society? Mrs. Hall, I'll ask you to take that away.
Thank you. I think he would be encouraged, but I think he would also realize that we have a long, long way to go. A lot of stuff we need to do, but I think he would be encouraged by all sorts of things that are happening. I hope that answers your question.
I'll jump in too and say just looking at the diversity in this room shows how far we have come, because in his time you would never see people going to school like that. During segregation, everyone was separated, right? And so now the fact that we're able to come together and go to school, when I sit out here and look at the beauty that is in this room, the diversity, it's a step in the right direction.
Thank you both for sharing that.
Thank you. Something that I would like to add, as I say, I grew up on a farm in Dunwoody. I have 2 grandchildren who are mixed race, who we adore and love. And that shows how far we've come in just 2 generations.
Thank you so much. Next question. And all the questions are at the microphone. Yes, thank you. Just to keep things in a timely manner. Next question.
Hi, my name is Jaylee. I go to Pearson Middle and I'm in 7th grade. And this question's for Ms. Celeste. And I wanted to know if you were ever referred to as A.D. King's granddaughter instead of Celeste. And if yes, how did that make you feel? If it made you feel some type of way?
Okay, well, since y'all are smiling, I'll share something with you. When I was your age, I was what they would call a bad kid. I wasn't always nonviolent. I used to mix it up, get a little rough. And I'm the 3rd child out of 6. And so I have 2 older brothers. So people knew what family I was in. My Aunt Christine, who is Martin's sister, and she's still alive today. She's the eldest member of the family at this point. But she would come to my school and give speeches, during Black History Month and things like that. So people knew who I was. One day somebody said, if your uncle was alive, he would roll over in his grave to see how bad you are. So, I got a little bit older and realized how important it was not to embarrass the family. So I ran away, didn't tell anybody who I was related to, so I could just, be me. But as I got a little older and realized the value of it, I got my life together. I'm now nonviolent. I work with the King Center and train people how to, be love and stuff. But when I was y'all's age, I wanted no parts of that. Yeah. It's a great question, though.
Very good question. Very good question. And we're going to continue to take the questions because, of course, this is your program. It's interactive and engaging. But before we move along, Dr. Baxter, on Celeste's point about nonviolence, talk about some of the training that SCLC and other groups, NAACP, did to really emphasize the nonviolence and how important it was with the sit-ins for the participants of the civil rights movement.
Thank you. That's a very important question because when we see an injustice, we see people marching and demonstrating, we think that that is all that needs to be done. Well, during the civil rights movement, there was what was called the Citizenship Education Program. And people actually studied nonviolence. They studied how to live with others in a loving manner, even to the point, and they did what was called, they'd be called like, what are when you act, you do?
The role plays?
Thank you. Role plays. They would do role plays so that they could accept the blows that would come. They knew this was an unjust society in the 60s, in the 50s, and before. And so they would prepare not only by having deep discussions, but also by having role plays, thank you, to know how to accept a blow and not retaliate. In other words, to show love and not hate, even when hate was directed at you. So that
Thank you. So important about the advocacy and the training that went on behind the scenes, because of course the civil rights movement was largely successful, but there was a lot of work that went into it as well to educate all individuals about the importance of nonviolence and about the power of equality and diversity. Next question.
My name is Jonathan. I'm from Pearson and I'm in 7th grade. And my question is for Ms. Hall. When you were protesting against the violence and the hate, was there any time where you questioned whether this was like the right thing to do? Because during all this violence and stuff, with the violence during the family and against the protesters, there was like a lot of waivers.
To tell you the truth, I never protested. I was a domestic. I was at home. I would do anything I could to help them out. But I never, I'm not then. I have since. I did, my husband and I did a lot to protest the Vietnam War. But at the time of the movement, we were both working with what we felt we could do to contribute. So that was what we did. It's so important, though, to protest. It's a way that you can say who you are and what you believe in, which is what Van, my husband, and I were doing. We were trying to add something and do what we could to help, and we felt that was something that Van was the assistant director of public relations for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He worked down the street at the SCLC office. So we were around all the time, but I did not protest other than with my thoughts and my heart, and when I could afford it, my money. So it's very important for everybody to stand up for what you believe in, figure out what you believe in, what you want to be, what you want to see happen, how you'd like your community and your country to be, what you'd like for them to be, and then go out and do that yourself and demonstrate that way.
Thank you. And I think what she said is so true. And to emphasize that individuals can play a part in any movement or cause that you think is important in your own way. So keep that in mind. And of course, stay true to yourself and continue to have your own voice. Next question.
Hi, I'm DeAnthony Miller. I'm from Stockbridge Middle School and I'm in 6th grade. I have a question for Ms. Hall. Is during segregation, since you were a white helping Black people, how did it feel?
I felt like I was in the right place. I was doing what I believed in. I was showing what I believed in. I never had any threat. I never had any difficulty. My friends were all supportive of what I was doing, which I think indicates, I think we all pick friends who are like us. Don't you have the same things you care about, same things you believe in? So it was always warm and loving and supportive in my group. And certainly the King family could not have been more supportive of our family. They were wonderful.
Thank you. Great question. Next question.
Hi, my name is Armani Sanders. I go to Stockbridge Middle School and I'm in 8th grade. My question isn't for anyone in specific, but I wanted to know what do you think Dr. King would do or how he would react to the more violent approach to receiving justice nowadays?
I'll ask that. Celeste, kick that off.
Okay. Well, one thing, when you look at the philosophy of nonviolence, it is to bring about change, right? Violence does happen. And sometimes violence even has to happen, but nonviolence is a response to it. And so I think from what I have read and what I've studied, Dr. King would not support violence, would not want it to happen, but would respond to it in a method of how to bring about the positive change. So instead of attacking people who were violent, he would try to bring them to the table to cease it, if that makes sense. Because you can't win over a situation by infusing it with hate. You know, you really have to understand what is going on. And he looked at the causes just as much as the actions to find solutions to get rid of what was going on. Because a lot of times, if you think about it, violence is the result of something. So instead of criticizing, punishing, or putting people down for the violence, he would rather get to the root cause to look for the creative situations to get past it, if that makes sense. And that's just based on my understanding and interpretation, because he died 10 years before I did. I mean, before I was born. I didn't die, but 10 years before I was born. Let me, you know, I'm still asleep, y'all. I want my hour back. My mind is, you know, a little bit slow right now. But it wasn't until I really became an adult that I started understanding him. And I encourage each of you, because y'all look like some beautiful, brilliant people. You have resources. You can actually read his words. If you do a Google search, you can find many books that explain his philosophy. You can even go to the bookstore if y'all brought, you know, your little Cash App cards. Y'all can go, you know, buy some stuff to really understand what he was talking about. That's a great question.
Dr. Baxter?
I was going to add one thing. In 1957, in Montgomery, Alabama, was very violent. It was during the Montgomery bus boycott. And Dr. King had people who would surround his house with guns. And he told them that he no longer wanted any guns around him. He did not want that kind of violent protection to in any way be associated with him. He even in those days had a gun that he gave up. Because for him, he had to represent and actually believe what he was teaching, what he was trying to do in Montgomery, which is to have a nonviolent movement. And as you know, it was successful. And people not only from all over the United States, but all over the world learned from that period of time. And the buses were desegregated because in Montgomery, when it all began, as Celeste was also saying, people were separated. People had to go to the front or to the back. They couldn't sit where they wanted to sit. After the Montgomery bus boycott, people could sit anywhere. So that in a nutshell is Dr. King and guns. He did not want them around him.
Thank you. I've just got a little personal story. I remember being at the house one day and Dr. King was there. He was usually on the road or in the office here, but he was there one afternoon when I was there about to leave. And Marty, their son, was about 8 or 10, came in the room and started to box Dr. King on the legs and on the butt. He was just, you know, doing like this. And Dr. King leaned over and laughed a little bit and he said, "Marty, I can't do that. You know I'm nonviolent." So he really did practice it, even with his kids.
Thank you, ladies, for such great insight. And through the insight, we have our advocacy, and thus the King legacy continues. Next question.
Good morning. My name is Nyla Harrell. I'm a paraprofessional at Pearson Middle School. Thank you guys for coming and spending your time with us today. So my question is for Ms. Celeste. Can you describe the immediate response from America after the announcement of MLK's birthday as a holiday? How did that response affect the public, and did it motivate your family or cause a little fear?
I was 3 at that time, and I can actually remember our whole family went up to Washington, D.C. when it happened. And so I remember my dad, who is not a part of the King family, being concerned because he was afraid that it would be a target. I'm not sure if you were aware, but in 74, I believe, Martin's mother was actually assassinated at the church. And so there was always a very real fear that people would be afraid that that they would continue to come for members of the family. In '69, the year after Martin was assassinated, my grandfather was also killed. And so my dad really did have a true respect for the power of hate in the country. And so my household did have a little bit of fear. My mom, on the other hand, she's not afraid of anything. So, she continued to go out and do what she needed to do. But the world was a very interesting time back then. And one thing that I do remember, the world was changing. You saw affirmative action. You saw all these things that were creating more opportunities for people of color, which also helped shift the narrative, because in 1968, when Martin was assassinated, he wasn't the Martin that we all know today. There were a lot of people who saw him either as a terrorist, a socialist, all these negative things. But Coretta Scott King actually shifted the narrative and let people know who Martin really was. So all of that kind of changed over the years as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Great question. Next question.
Before the next question, the panelists, y'all doing a great job, but I'd just like to let you know that we have a few more questions, but everybody won't be able to answer. We're gonna do it with one person so we can get all 3 questions answered so we can end on time. And thank you so much for all the excitement and all the answers you've given, but we're gonna do 1 question per person so we can get these done.
Got it. And some great questions, Mr. Bullock, for sure. Thank you. Young lady.
Good morning. My name is Phoebe Fierce from Simonton Elementary, and my question was my question was for Ms. Celeste. How do you think, or what would you do to carry on Dr. King's legacy today?
Okay, well, doing what I'm doing right now, I work with young people. I'm on the advisory board of several different organizations that are all geared towards helping young people. And we go out, we speak, we raise money, we provide support, we get in the communities working with young people, letting them know that there is a world that is waiting for you. Martin Luther King lived a very short life. He was 39 years old when he passed away. When he was 15, he graduated from high school and prepared to go to college. And so I remind young people that you need to start making decisions on who you are and what your contributions to the world are going to be. The world is bright, the future is bright, but a lot of that light is sitting in these seats right now. And so every opportunity that I get, I try to remind each and every one of you that y'all are who we're waiting on.
I love it. Thank you so much. Next question.
Hi, I'm Bentley and I'm from Simonton Elementary, and my question is for Mrs. Baxter. That question is, what did it take to build this center?
What did it take to build the center? Work day and night. When I began working for the center, it was not even located here. This did not even exist, what is called the Freedom Hall complex. The little offices that we had were next door to the birth home on Auburn Avenue. So it was at 503 Auburn Avenue where we began. And even there was like the big kind of mock-up of what the center was going to look like. And day and night, I want to say 24/7, Mrs. King worked to fundraise, to bring people on board, because it's not just the building, it's also who's inside it. A board of directors that supported it. It was a fantastic board of directors in the earliest years, led by someone really remarkable, Mr. Jesse Hill. And it was her vision. She knew that what Dr. King was doing and teaching was revolutionary. And I remember when she would point to all those windows up there and she would go, there will be multilingual translation facilities so that people from around the world can learn this. And that's what the King Center has become. It's become a beacon to the world for teaching about nonviolence. So that's what it took.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Great question, Billy. And our final question, young man.
My name is Jason, and I'm from Pearson Middle School. And my question is for Miss Les. Did you ever feel like you were gonna be like threatened, or how would I say it? Like threatened when you were a little kid?
When I was a little kid, I didn't really feel like I would be threatened because, like I told y'all, I was a little bit of a bully back then. So the world was different. You know, you guys have technology, and so you're instantly aware all the time of the violence and dangers. Back in the 80s, we didn't really have that. You know what I mean? And so it wasn't immediate. We didn't have guns coming into the school all the time. We didn't have any of that. So I feel more threatened today than I did when I was a kid, which is why it is so important. I know y'all gave a little pushback when I told y'all to look to the left and the right and, you know, just share love. But we're in a world where there are really people who don't receive love. Like, they might not receive love at home. They might not receive love anywhere. And so there are the people who grow up and produce violence. And so as a culture, just by being intentional, looking at someone, I see you, you matter, you're important, I'm glad you are here. Those are the principles of like the truest form of love, like agape love. It's not love like I love you because you're going to do something for me. It's just I love you because you matter. And when the world really takes that in, that's when we can see a shift. That's when we can see a change. That's when we can stop being afraid and start building and working towards something great. And so personally, today, I'm not really afraid because on the inside, like, as you can see, like my shirt, I'm rooted in love. You know what I mean? And so I don't have room for the fear, but I do have a passion and a desire to make sure each and every one of you and everyone I come into contact with feels that same love.
Yeah. Let's give a round of applause. Some wonderful questions. Oh my. Staff and teachers, I know you're super proud of the amazing and dynamic gifted students you have. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for making this an interactive and engaging panel. And let's give a round of applause to our panelists. Wonderful, wonderful job. 3 amazing ladies. Keep it going. Thank you for sharing your stories, your advocacy, your passion and love, because I'm going to quote Celeste, because you're going to build up the next generation. Thank you. And I do want to give kudos and a shout out to the staff and team here at the King Center for making all of this happen. They do an amazing job over and over again, continuing the advocacy and the love and the passion of the late, great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give a round of applause for our moderator, Ms. Shannon Thornton. Job well done. Man, this was an exciting day. We had so much fun and stuff like that. And I just want to check to see if Simpleton Elementary School made it. Did they make it? All right, then. Let's give a round of applause. So will you send your representatives up now? We're going to let them do their game that they prepared for. So let's give a round of applause. Let's hit the music. And you are going to remain there. You're going to help me out. So I'm going to cheer them on, all right? Let's give a round of applause. They're on their way up now.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right.
Now they travel a long way. They've been reading the book. They've been preparing, and they're not middle schoolers. So make sure we get the elementary school questions. But they'll probably know the answer because they're from a very, very, very well-trained teacher. And was Miss Thomas out there? Where are you? Wave your hand. Yeah. Yeah, right. Wave your hand. In fact, you get this way and stand in the corner. We want to see you too. Go over there, Miss Thomas. Amen. But right now, we're gonna ask the voice to give us a question for this team. You're gonna show you a question. You're gonna think about what your answer is. Then you're gonna pair with your partner. You're gonna come up with one answer, and hopefully that's the correct answer. Face this way. I'm gonna read the question in case y'all can see it. The question is behind you. Can you see the question? It said, what is the name of the neighborhood that Dr. King lived in during his childhood days? While you are thinking, you stay out there, teacher, no help, you stay back. Okay, is it Sweet Peach? Is it Sweet Auburn? Is it Sour Auburn? Or is it King Palace? Okay, they thinking about it. Don't y'all yell it out, because I know y'all already know the answer middle school. Y'all long past this. Don't yell it out. Let them have a chance. All right, y'all pair with each other. Y'all got a spokesperson? Okay, here you are. And right here, right there, and let us know the answer.
Is it Sweet Auburn?
Is it Sweet Auburn? Is it Sweet Auburn? Now, I want you to call your teacher up, and then you're going to ask her a question. Would you like to do that?
Sure.
Yes, there she is right there. Call.
Miss Thomas? Miss Thomas?
Say it so everybody can hear you. You in charge today. Miss Ellis, come forward. Say it.
Miss Thomas.
Oh, Miss Thomas. Okay, I got the wrong teacher. Miss Thomas. Miss Thomas, come forward. I'm going to give you the question.
Oh, okay.
You got to get her over here first.
Oh, Miss Thomas. Can you tell us about a program that the King Center has that you participate in?
Why, yes, I can. I've been here several times, several groups here from Gwinnett to participate in this program, along with the new program that I learned about this year. We read a book last week. My second grade gifted class read a book with Dr. Bernice King. It starts with you. And they begged me to buy it. I'm gonna buy it you can only buy it from the book from here, from their bookstore. And it's Reading with the King. Students with King. Reading Corner. So that's what we've been doing for the last 2 weeks. We did Carmen, about last month, but that's what we've been doing.
All right, let's give a round of applause for her. Job well done. If you go that way, you got gifts waiting on you. See the young lady there? There's gifts waiting on you all. We're not going to go over them again. Follow your teacher. There's gifts waiting for you. Once again, let's give them a round of applause. I'd like to thank all of you all today. I'd like to remind teachers that I gave you a flyer to list all of our programs. Student with King program design so that we can make sure you have an experience designed to introduce students to the history of the American Civil Rights Movement through those who lived through it. For those who lived through it or knew someone who lived through it, they experienced it. That's what we did today. Also, on next week, one of the panelists mentioned about the boycott. Next week, on Thursday, middle school teachers, you can register for this. We were going to be having Miss Doris Crenshaw. She was a teenager when they did the boycott. She volunteered and helped with Miss Rosa Parks and all of them when they were doing the boycott. And she's going to share her experience. So teachers, you can see that in your classroom through the virtual, and you also can ask questions that we'll answer your question. So if you look at your flyer, it tells you how to sign up for that. So middle school teachers, I expect to see y'all on it, and I expect to get some of these great questions. Once again, thanks to the panelists. Thank you all for coming. And teachers, we are dismissed from the back. Our elementary school is going to leave first. The ranger is waiting on you to take you on your private tour of the King Center. You all get a private tour where other people have to just do it individually. But once again, job well done. And all those who receive prizes, I'd like you to come forward because we'd like to take a picture with you and the panelists. So all those who was on stage, will you please come this way and line up? and everybody else go in the direction of your teacher. So let's have one more round of applause for our students and our teachers and those that serve today. Thank you.
Do you want it sitting, Mr. Bullock? Say seated? Okay.